Welcome to the Nikkei National Museum located in Burnaby, BC. We are grateful to be able to share Japanese-Canadian heritage on these unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam First Nations. The exhibit, WASHI, Japanese Paper Connecting Cultures, Countries, and Generations, is presented in cooperation with the Canadian Society for Asian Arts and with support from the Province of British Columbia and the BC Arts Council and the Dumille Foundation. Washi is Japanese paper, steeped in tradition that dates back more than 1,000 years. It is the foundation for a myriad of Japanese cultural arts. The Washi exhibit explores the ways two artists, Naoko Matsubara and Alexa Hatanaka, individually interpret the cross-cultural influence of Western and Eastern technique within the use of washi in their artwork. Although from different generations, Matsubara and Hatanaka carved their path with printmaking as their primary medium. The development of their respective practices has involved many relationships, interactions, and experiences that together have molded their continuous explorations with paper. The artists connect to their heritage while navigating their own interpretations of culture and history.
I'm Naoko Matsubara. I am an artist, and then I specialize in woodcut. It is one of the printmaking. I have been doing this, let me see, nearly 70 years. There is a concert. So let's go to the concert now. I said, okay. I had no idea what kind of concert. And it was Ravi Shankar from India. And I was mesmerized. And next morning, as soon as I went back to my studio, I asked everybody, would you mind getting me some piece of wood because I want to make woodcut? I don't know why I thought. And then somewhere deep inside, isn't this what you are looking for? That's it. I can make it my life.
My name is Alexa Hatanaka. I'm an artist, and I've been working within printmaking for over 10 years, primarily relief printmaking and in conjunction with washi, which is Japanese paper. And then more recently, I've been exploring the capacity of the paper itself and working three-dimensionally. And I started using it because it's so great for printmaking. And then as time evolved, I started thinking about it a lot more in terms of how using it allows me to relate back to my heritage and kind of recognizing how it's been around me since childhood. I've had paper dolls that were gifted to me from my grandmother, for example, that I cherished and didn't really kind of come to my attention that it's been a part of me for so long until recently. For me, considering the influences of the different cultures coming together is also thinking about the future and how hybridity can be celebrated and be part of the evolution and dialogue, and really thinking about how to honor a kind of mixed experience like mine and how that can be part of the conversation going forward and sustaining these practices. Particularly thinking about the fact that this exhibition is aligned with the 80th anniversary of the internment of Japanese Canadians, which impacted my family. It's having me think a lot about the importance of sharing across generation and what's passed down. And because of that, it's extra special for me to show with Naoko and honor what I've learned from her and previous generations and that sentiment in general, which is so important.
Japan really treasures paper. July 7th, that is our star festival. It's called Tanabata. And the Tanabata Matsuri is something I cannot forget. We all make some origami with star or something, and then she hung that. See, there is a paperwork I have there. That is the remnant of this Tanabata Matsuri. This is called in praise of hands. So this is my hand. The hand can do anything. So hand did this, the cutting of washi. And this washi is treated with cognac powder, which is a fantastic thing. I did not know I can make this kind of paper out of any paper. If it's a good paper, it's so strong you cannot tear it. Then I started to cut. Of course, I have lots of knives. And then sometimes it's colored one. It's like a Tanabata effect, which I like it. And it shows how beautiful washi is, as it is. I never throw away any remnant. You know, you don't chop, you do it so that you can get that nice fiber when you cut it. I had boxes full of these remnants of good washi, so I did not know what to do with them, and I said, and then also I envy those sculptors. They can do a giant sculptures. Oh, I want to do sculpture, I want to do sculpture. And then I made this woodcuts, this black one there, that is sort of making it three-dimensional feeling. That's my aspiration to become sculptor.
When I'm making my work, I always save the scraps and the offcuts from when I'm sewing and then incorporate them into future pieces to patchwork. And in that sense, they're all connected to each other. And for me, it's also important in thinking about how artworks aren't standalone pieces. They're kind of like a moment in the entire arc of my life of making. To me, embodies the philosophy of motenai, which means it's too good to waste.
My work became more and more and more colorful. Maybe this is the biggest one with 17 blocks. Can you imagine 17? You have no idea how many blocks to make this one. And it is called Tagasode. And that theme is so often used in Japanese history of art. And it's usually iko, which is a furniture where people have the kimono just hanging. And the artists always thought that's beautiful, so they painted that in all sorts of ways. This is a small edition, but it was not easy task to print it right. So I had a top-notch printer, Alan Flint, and myself in his big press printed together. And this went to various museums, and I'm very happy.
For these tabby pieces, I followed, I created the pattern from tabby that I had from when I did dancing when I was a kid. And I worked with it how I usually do. The washi, I either printed on it or drew on it first. So here I have a print of my grandmother, actually, which is a lino cut that I did of her back in 2016. But I used to visit her when she was losing her hearing, and it was hard for us to communicate. So instead of writing notes back and forth, I would just draw her so we could spend a lot of time together. And we'd have kind of something we could share. So there's a portrait of her there. And there's also a type of printmaking called gyotaku, which is printing from fish using sumi ink. And it's non-toxic, so you can still wash off the fish and eat it after. So it used to be done by fishermen for very practical reasons, and then it evolved more into an art form.
Until recently, this year, I have used oil-based ink and with sumi, and always it is a meditative feeling to make sumi. It takes a long, long time. I started to paint freely without anything, just or made a woodcut and printed in a very different way, and had mountain of these things. And I started to assemble it. Then it worked. It worked something new. something that I could not achieve with oil-based ink. But you see that this kind of gradation, all this gradation, and the wooden grain you were seeing, all this texture, I was excited. So this is the number one.
This piece is made out of many, many handmade sheets of paper made out of gampi, which again is made in a kind of hybrid method of using the fiber that's commonly used to make washi, but it's actually formed in a Western style of paper making. I dip dyed each piece of paper into kakishibu, which is the aged persimmon dye, and then worked with it like a grid to form these letters. And it reads out a very common phrase in Japanese, which is shoganai, and it means it cannot be helped. I think it can have many different readings for different people, as perhaps maybe seeming like passive or giving up one's agency. But at the same time, if you look at it from a different perspective, which is how I think it was originally intended, but that's my interpretation, is that it's about, there's always going to be, to a certain degree, things that we can't control, and the response in this sense is to have a certain amount of acceptance as a kind of strength and resilience. And the other work behind it is the same phrase, but written in Japanese, and this is written in the Romanji version of it. I find the writing is kind of obscured, which to me kind of makes sense in terms of thinking about disconnection and disruption that happened because of internment and what wasn't passed down. And one of those things, major things, is language. And for this piece, it was done by, I dip dyed the gampi sheets in indigo dye this time. And so the two have this nice relationship in the gallery hanging together.
I am so happy to have this exhibition. Really, I am. I was looking forward to come here to see her work. And then the moment you come in from that entrance, there was some kind of harmony. Don't you think so? I can sit here for a long time. You bring any food, I'll be here.